نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الكريم والفرقان الحميد: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لن ينال الله لحومها ولا دماؤها ولكن ينال الله التقوى منكم. وقال أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: يا رسول الله ما هذه الأضاحي؟ قال: سنة أبيكم إبراهيم عليه السلام. قالوا: فما لنا فيها يا رسول الله؟ قال: بكل شعرة حسنة. قالوا: فالصوف يا رسول الله؟ قال: بكل شعرة من الصوف حسنة. رواه أحمد وابن ماجه. صدق الله مولانا العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. ربنا يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح ربي زدني علما. اللهم صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. My dear respected brothers and elders, sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, alhamdulillah, has given us the tawfiq to begin the topic of Qurbaani, Kitab al-Udhiyah, Kitab al-Adahi, whereby we mentioned about the history of Qurbaani from our father Adam alayhi salatu wassalam, Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam, the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he was seen slaughtering these animals. This is the hadith that we read. And the companions asked him, O Messenger of Allah, what is this? And he said, Sunnatu abikum Ibrahim. He said, it is the sunnah of your father Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam. And we mentioned about whom sacrifice becomes wajib. We mentioned the types of animals that can be sacrificed. We mentioned that the days which the animals ought to be sacrificed. And today we continue with those animals that can or cannot be used for Qurbaani. Today we continue with those animals that can or cannot be used for Qurbaani. And some of the things we will reiterate inshallah. And we made mention that Qurbaani can only be done of animals like goat, sheep, cattle, camels, male or female. No other type. Someone asked the question also with regards to bison. All these different aqsam of and types of cow and bulls, etc. These will also be allowed for Qurbaani inshallah. Castrated animals may be used for Qurbaani. Animals that are castrated can be used for Qurbaani. Qurbaani of a barren animal is also allowed. These things are not considered as defects. We will come up to some of the defects that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam spoke about inshallah, but these are not considered to be defects in the animal. We mentioned that the goat and sheep, the goats and the sheep, they have to be at least 1 year old, but a very healthy sheep that looks, it's not 1 year old, but it looks like a 1 year old sheep, that can also be used for Qurbaani. We mentioned that cattle, it has to be at least 2 years old. Camels must be at least 5 years old. For sheep and goat, it will count as one share. One person can share in a sheep or a goat. Two people cannot put up to buy a share in Qurbaani for one person. Meaning that if one person wants to help another person buy their share, then that is not a problem, because they are buying a share for one person. But two people cannot share in one Qurbaani, of a sheep or a goat. A sheep or a goat can only have one shareholder with regards to a Qurbaani share. But with regards to the cattle, it can have 7 shares, and with regards to the camels, it can have also 7 shares. If a person sacrifices one cow or camel without sharing with others, his Qurbaani will become accomplished by the whole animal. If he sacrifices several animals instead of one, his wajib Qurbaani will be accomplished by one animal, and the other animals will be counted as nafil and voluntary. We will just be doing different masail that comes about and different rulings that comes about, my dear respected brothers and elders, with regards to the animals of Qurbaani. So here we are seeing that with regards to a man who takes one cattle for himself, one share from the 7 shares of the cattle or the cow or the bull will be sufficient for him. But what if a man, he slaughters one entire cow for himself or one camel for himself? That would work, inshallah, and there's no problem in that, right? He did more, mashallah. Less was expected of him, only one share, but he did more, alhamdulillah. Likewise, a man kills 2 or 3 goat and sheep, that will be sufficient for him, inshallah. The first one that he killed will be his wajib Qurbaani, the others will be considered as nafil and optional. If less than 7 persons make Qurbaani of a cow or camel, it is permissible. And if any person's share is less than 1/7, the Qurbaani of all the persons will not be valid. Coming up to, inshallah, the ruling of sharing of the meat. We will come to that, inshallah. With regards to sharing of the meat, it is not just an understood thing, well, take this and you go ahead and go up the road and whatever you get. In Qurbaani, we are talking about ibadat of Allah. And the fuqaha have mentioned that we should weigh the 7 shares and as much as possible try to ensure that everyone's share is equal. And we will come to, inshallah, whereby we can get out of everyone's share being equal, because sometimes it may not be too easy to ensure that everyone's share is equal, but we can put other things like the hoof, the tail, etc. with each one's share, and that will make it equal, inshallah, in the sense that we will not have to, it will be okay that everyone gets their share with something else, but it will not be necessary at that time that everyone get 55 pounds, for example, right? So the point that is made here, less than 7 people can give a share, right? Less than 7 people can share in an animal, just as we said 1 person can share in an animal. Less than 7 people can share in an animal, and the Qurbaani of all will be valid. 5 people shared in one big animal, no problem in that, inshallah, right? But everyone's share must be equal. If more than 7 persons share 1 cow or camel, the Qurbaani of none of them will be valid. And at this point we mentioned, with regards to Qurbaani, we have to ensure, inshallah, that we are doing Qurbaani with people, mashallah, they are God conscious. They know of the rulings of Qurbaani. As we mentioned last day, not that someone is going to try to make a mint off of Qurbaani and he is going to use this meat for sale, and he's just looking at it that, you know what, not all the time it is easy for me to get a sheep or a goat. As a matter of fact, right now someone is sponsoring me to get a share in a cow, so I will use this in my business and just sell this animal, right? No, we cannot do it like that, my dear respected brothers and elders. The point that is being made here is that the people who are making who are shareholders with us, their intention must be pure to do the act to please Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because mention is made here that of the Qurbaani of none of them will be valid. We mentioned previously also, if a person's intention is not correct, one person's intention is not correct, or one person did something in such a manner that made his Qurbaani invalid, then the other shareholders can be affected. Here mention is made that if more than 7 persons take a share in that particular animal, then the Qurbaani of all of them will not be valid. None of their Qurbaani will be valid. But alhamdulillah, we are just mentioning these rulings, my dear respected brothers and elders, as is mentioned in the books. But generally speaking, inshallah, everyone normally ensures that they only have 7 or less in an animal. 7 or less, but cannot have 8, right? And mind you, many people will still ask that question. So we have to ensure, inshallah, that 8 people are not taking a share in an animal. Sometimes a husband might tell himself, you know what, this year I will put half and my wife will put half, and 2 of us will share in one particular share of a cow. But 2 of them cannot share in one share of a cow. They cannot take part and participate in one particular share. They either have separate shares in a cow, or the husband is helping the wife to pay for her share, or vice versa, the wife is helping the husband to pay for his share. So no more than 7 persons in the cow or the camel. When more than 1 person makes Qurbaani of a cow or camel, it is a condition for the validity of Qurbaani of all the persons that each of them have the niyat of Qurbaani or Aqiqah, and if any of them has an intention of merely eating meat, the Qurbaani of all the shareholders will not be valid. Again, some of this we have done already, inshallah. We are just reiterating because we are coming up, inshallah, to those types of defects we cannot use with regards to the animals. A mention is made here. A person is just in it for the meat, as we were mentioning just now. Meat, it becomes more readily available. So a man is just in it for the meat. It's nothing about Qurbaani, nothing about sacrificing for the sake of Allah. And al-a'malu bin niyat. We are speaking about intentions, my dear respected brothers and elders. Mention is made here of niyat for Qurbaani and Aqiqah. These are the 2 things that we can have intention for when we are doing our Qurbaani. It can be for Qurbaani, the actual sacrifice that is present there, right? With regards to the 10th, 11th, and 12th, these are the days of sacrifice for that present year. Or we can be doing the Aqiqah of ourselves, of somebody else who did not do their Aqiqah and they want to do their Aqiqah now, those who are living. And that will all be well and good. And if within the 7 shares you have 6 people who are doing Qurbaani, 1 person who is doing Aqiqah, no problem, and everything will all be well and good. But if 1 person amongst the 7, he only has his intention of getting the meat, he just wanted to purchase some meat, just like he was going to buy that over the counter in any other store, it is nothing about Qurbaani. As a matter of fact, just to make us understand the example, if you were to ask him, are you going to do sacrifice for yourself? He will say no. He does not want to do Qurbaani. Even if you tell him it is wajib upon him, he will not do it. But he needs meat right now, so he's willing to buy the meat. In such a case, my dear respected brothers and elders, such intention will cause his Qurbaani to be affected, and it will also cause everybody else's Qurbaani to be affected, because he has shared in the animal also. When buying a cow or camel, one made an intention that he will share this animal with others. After purchasing the animal, he finds others to share in this animal with him, the Qurbaani will be proper. A man, he looks, he finds a big animal, he sees it's a good deal, he takes the animal, and he has his intention that he will allow other people to share with him in this animal. There's no problem in that, inshallah, the Qurbaani will be valid. At the time of purchasing a cow or camel, one makes the intention that he will not share this animal with others. It is now not good for him to share that animal with others. But if he does, the Qurbaani of the shareholders will be valid, and his Qurbaani will also be valid. If he is a person who Qurbaani is wajib, that is a rich person. If he is a poor person, then he will have to make Qurbaani for that number of shares that he has given to others. If the days of Qurbaani have passed, then he must give the value of that animal to the poor. Mention is being made here of a few maslas that we will see, inshallah, a few rulings that we will see. And the ruling differentiates between a poor person and a rich person. And what happens is, my dear respected brothers and elders, it is just a slight difference. With a wealthy person, he can buy an animal and he can buy another animal. So therefore, the scholars have made a little differentiation upon if Qurbaani actually becomes wajib upon the wealth, or if Qurbaani actually becomes wajib upon the animal in itself. Sometimes you have a poor person, Qurbaani was not wajib upon them, but they bought an animal for Qurbaani. Now Qurbaani becomes wajib upon this animal, and we will come to see other masail of that nature, inshallah. Right? So not to confuse anyone, inshallah, this is not the norm. This normally does not happen, inshallah. But if it does, then of course we have to know how to apply the law. So what has been said here, a person, he is wealthy, he purchases an animal, and he tells himself that he was not going to get anybody else to share in this animal. Then even he is wealthy, it's not good for him to get other people to share in this animal, because it's a big animal, but his intention was, I am going to do this Qurbaani on my own. Not good now for him to share that animal. If he shares it, no problem, inshallah, the Qurbaani of everyone will be valid. However, now, if the person was a poor person, he will have to make, and he allows other people to share in this animal, he will have to make Qurbaani for the number of shares that he has given to others in the days of Qurbaani. And if the days of Qurbaani have passed, he must give the value of that amount of shares to the poor people. If the person was a poor man, he bought an animal, he had a little bit of savings, and he said that, you know what, I'm getting this cow at a deal. Allah has blessed me that I am capable of purchasing a cow. I will use it for my Qurbaani alone. And I am so grateful to Allah, I will not share this Qurbaani with anybody else. Then when he buys it, he has it there, but then the money is worrying him now, and he looks at it, you know what, if I did not really make an intention like that, I could have gotten other shares which would help me out. Right? But now I am a little stuck because I made an intention like that. So he says, you know what, Allah knows best, let me take 7 shares. Let me take 6 other people with me. But he's a poor person. It is wajib for him to slaughter this animal now, because that is the intention that he bought it with, to do Qurbaani. And the intention of the animal to do Qurbaani now changes the nature of that normal animal. That is not an animal that is just feeding in our backyard. We bought this animal with the intention of the act to do ibadat. Just like, for example, we can have money in our pockets, and this money we can give it to someone who is asking for money. We can buy a snow cone, we can buy some food, we can buy something in the grocery. But if we take this very said money and say, and put it there, and we give it to somebody else, this is zakat, right? This is our zakat. We cannot take that money now and buy snow cone. We cannot buy snow cone with our zakah money that we have given, right? So, the money has changed. Even though we are the authorities of this money, we cannot use this money anymore to do something else, because the nature of the money has changed. Just showing us, my dear respected brothers and elders, with regards to the Qurbaani animal, there are certain different qualities and different characteristics that are now attached to the animal, because we have purchased this animal for Qurbaani. So now we go to the defects that we were mentioning, that Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he himself has said that the animals should be free from certain types of defects. Hazrat Bara ibn Azim said that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was asked about what should be avoided from the animals that we are going to slaughter. He pointed with his hand, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, and he said, Arba'an, al-arja'u al-bayyinu, ضلعها والأوراء البين أورها والمريض البين مرضها والأجفاء التي لا تنقي رواه مالك وأحمد. He pointed with his hand and said 4 things: the lameness which is obvious, the blindness which is obvious, the illness which is obvious, and the lean animal which has no marrow. These are the types of animals that Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam has mentioned that they cannot be used for Qurbaani. And it comes from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Shari alayhi salam. One of those, Allah and the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, our Sharia comes from. So we just accept it and go along with that. An animal that was born without horns, or the horns have been broken out from the middle, can be used for Qurbaani. If the horn has been broken off from the root, it cannot be used for Qurbaani. So an animal that was born without horns, or the horns have been broken from the middle, can be used for Qurbaani. If it was born without horns, no problem. If it was broken from the middle, no problem, we can use it for Qurbaani. If the horn was broken off from the root, it cannot be used for Qurbaani. If it was broken from the root, we cannot use it for Qurbaani. Those animals that are totally blind or have lost 1/3 or more of their eyesight, or 1/3 or more of one ear is cut, or 1/3 or more of the tail is cut, we are not allowed to use such animals for Qurbaani. So a few animals have been mentioned here. Animals that are totally blind. We might not be totally aware of it. We may be able to detect it. Again, we ask those people of knowledge with regards to the animals, if they are totally blind and whatnot, and they will be able to tell us, inshallah, especially the people who are accustomed dealing with these animals. They would know better than us, inshallah, who do not deal with animals on a regular basis. So those animals that are totally blind, we cannot use them for Qurbaani. They have lost 1/3 or more of their eyesight, cannot use them for Qurbaani. With regards to their ear, 1/3 or more of their ear is cut. With regards to their ear, 1/3 or more of their ear is cut, we cannot use it for Qurbaani. Likewise, their tail, 1/3 or more of their tail is cut off, we are not allowed to use such animals for Qurbaani. If just a little bit is cut off, right? If a little bit is cut off the tail or the ear, we can use it, inshallah. If there's a little chip, we can use it. Now, if it is not so blind, whereby it is, it is probably just as a little sight problem, but it is not like totally blind, we can use it, inshallah. An animal which limps and walks on 3 legs and cannot put the injured 4th leg onto the ground, or that it can put the injured leg onto the ground, but it is unable to walk on it, cannot be used for Qurbaani. However, if it is unable to walk on it, but it can still take support from it, then Qurbaani is allowed with it, even though it may be limping. 2 things is mentioned here. 1, an animal that we have for Qurbaani, if it even develops such a defect before the act of slaughtering, we may or may not be capable of using it for slaughtering, and we will come to certain other exemptions, inshallah, when at the time of slaughtering it actually incurs an injury. But this is generally speaking before, when we have the animal and we see that the animal is walking on 3 of its legs, and it actually raises up one of its legs, and it is walking on 3 legs alone. It cannot use the 4th leg. That animal is not permissible for Qurbaani. That animal is not permissible for Qurbaani. If, however, it still walks on 3 legs, But the fourth leg, it actually uses it as a prop on the ground. And it does not necessarily have it up in the air. And it can actually use it as a support on the ground, and we can see it using it as a support on the ground. Then it would be permissible to use. Now, some of these rulings, my dear respected brothers and elders, we have to be very careful with, because sometimes we buy a Qurbaani animal, and by means of transport or movement or not knowing how to take care of animals, or dog attacking the animals, etc., whatever have you, different experiences of people, the animals can develop these types of defects, which would cause it not permissible to be used for Qurbaani. Animals having no teeth at all cannot be used for Qurbaani. Animals having no teeth at all cannot be used for Qurbaani. If an animal has lost some teeth only and has most of its teeth, Qurbaani is permissible with it. If most of the teeth are lost, Qurbaani is not permissible with such an animal. The majority of the teeth is there, then it's in order, inshallah. More than the majority of the teeth is not there, it would not be permissible to use such an animal for Qurbaani. Animal born without ears cannot be used for Qurbaani. Animal born without ears cannot be used for Qurbaani. Animal with very small ears can be used for Qurbaani. So two different types of animals. One that is born without ears, that animal cannot be used for Qurbaani. But if it has ears and the ears are very small, it can be used for Qurbaani, inshallah. Animals that are so thin and weak or sick that they are unable to walk to the place of slaughter cannot be used for Qurbaani. If we want to slaughter this animal, we would physically have to lift up this animal or drag it to the place, and it would not be able to walk on its own. We cannot use such an animal for Qurbaani. Remember, we are doing an act of ibadat, inshallah. We want to ensure that everything is in order. If an animal sustains an injury while slaughtering, for example, a leg breaks or the ear is cut, etc., then the Qurbaani of such an animal will be valid, because it happens at that point in time when we are actually going to slaughter the animal. Right? So the leg actually breaks, or an ear is cut off, because the guy, he was trying to hold on this animal, and somehow or the other it flipped him over, and he had the knife in his hand, and the knife was so sharp, it cut the leg, or the leg became broken because they tied it up to try to stabilize the animal, and now this animal was pulling and tugging and it broke its leg. At that time, inshallah, it will be valid to slaughter such an animal, because they were just preparing it for the slaughter. An animal was bought in a healthy and perfect state. After purchasing it, an accident occurred which rendered the animal unfit for Qurbaani. In such a case, if the purchaser is not wealthy, means sahibun nisab, he does not have the nisab, it will be permissible to offer the same animal for Qurbaani. If the purchaser is sahibun nisab, he owns the nisab, then it is compulsory upon him to obtain another animal in place of the injured animal. So, generally speaking, nowadays, the nisab is roughly $2,827.34. Let's say $2,830. If a person has this amount of money in silver, as long as the rate of silver remains stable like this, low, sometimes it goes up, then on the 10th, 11th and 12th, they will have to do Qurbaani. Now, if we have not yet seen the moon for Dhul Hijjah, a person purchases an animal now for Qurbaani, they are keeping it in the back of the house, and now it incurred some type of defect due to an accident, which now will make it considered to be unfit for Qurbaani. If there are two cases, one, the person is a rich person, he can afford another animal because he is sahibun nisab. then such a person will have to buy another animal because this animal has incurred a defect whereby it is considered unfit for Qurbaani. If, however, the person is not so wealthy and the person does not have the nisab and he cannot afford another animal, then it would be permissible for him to slaughter the animal for Qurbaani. If an animal bought for Qurbaani gives birth before being slaughtered, then this newly born animal should also be slaughtered. This is how it is mentioned in the books. Even at the time of slaughtering the animal, they have mentioned that a person now gets to realize that there was a calf inside of the stomach, right? Then if it is born alive, then it could also be slaughtered. If not, then if it dies, then it could also be buried. So what has been mentioned here, a person bought an animal for Qurbaani and this animal gives birth to another animal before it was slaughtered, then the new animal should also be slaughtered because that entire animal had been bought for Qurbaani. The entire animal had been bought for Qurbaani. We will stop there inshallah, and next day we will deal with the meat and the skin of Qurbaani, and if we have time inshallah we will also deal briefly with Aqiqah. Right? So we will stop there today inshallah. Jazakumullah. We will continue next day inshallah.